perspective study, and it had enough number. The results for the sensitivity and specificity of explanatory variables chosen was not high, and the prediction equation enabled better discrimination of early stage keratoconus. So the interpretation that I made, the study attempted to find a way of screening for early stage keratoconus using autokeratometer derived values, which proved to be better than using isolated parameters. Extrapolated that most of our cases are caught at an advanced stage, and not many opticians have the necessary equipment to use, like the keratometers. So it might be difficult to extrapolate this in our setting. But other than that, it offered valuable information on prediction of early stage keratoconus. So the take clinical message would be that early keratoconus lacks slit-lamp microscopy findings, and diagnosis with corneal tomography and topography is important. And patients with undiagnosed early keratoconus often go to opticians because of a frequent change in refraction as the keratoconus progresses. So it would be good for us to investigate such patients further. And this is a possible research question, which is a prevalence of keratoconus in Zambia, a multi-center study. Thank you for your attention. I'm handing over to Dr. Gita.
A very good presentation. Congratulations, Kunda.
Thank you, Doc.
Yeah. And what you said, all the salient points we see regularly when you get a keratoconus patients, right? And the early screening of keratoconus patient is very necessary so that we can actually stop the progression of keratoconus if it is a milder form, and or you can slow down the keratoconus progression. Supposing if you take an early keratoconus case by screening autokeratometry, I feel it is a wonderful screening method. Your studies had shown 123 eyes with the standard control group of 205 eyes. So similar situation, supposing if we have in Zambia, what we can do? Definitely there are two options. First, eliciting the history. You have already mentioned that people who have keratoconus have got a refractive error. They will have definitely complaints of not seeing well and photophobia. Sometimes they will be scratching their eyes and they will come to the doctor. Their age group may be between 8 years to 23 years. Mainly in Zambia, we see between 10 to 15 to 16 years like that. So these complaints, when they come, normally here they go to the opticians. So they might prescribe glasses, and sometimes they are not identifying that the patient is having a keratoconus. So it is mandatory for all the ophthalmologists to see these patients thoroughly. Take the history. Now you have to do the retinoscopy, autorefractometer reading, then autokeratometer reading, so that you will be able to know whether the patient has got an myopia and astigmatism, whether it is a with the rule astigmatism or against the rule astigmatism or irregular astigmatism. Now, all the patients should be subjected for dilatation as well. When they are dilated, after that you have to do the dilatation retinoscopy. Normal eyes, supposing if they are having only myopia, suppose if they have astigmatism, what will be the reflex? If there is a keratoconus, that crossing scissors, that kind of images will be found out. So from the symptoms and with the retinoscopy, you will have definitely a doubt that the patient may be having something abnormal corneal curvature. If you have a keratometer, then it will be very useful for the patients so that we can identify keratoconus at the early stage. Next level is the slit lamp examination. When you do the slit lamp examination in the low power as well as in the high power, you can see the curvature of the cornea, thinning of the cornea, sometimes in the epithelial layer, pleasure ring. In the deeper structures, you will see Bott striae. This is the milder form, Moderate, you will have that Bott striae and all. But in the later stages, the story is different. We are talking about the early stage, mild stage. These are all indicative of keratoconus. You have already said again about the corneal topography and tomography. So if you take a topography, it is with the Placidus disc mechanism, where the Placidus disc will give you a circular ring all around the corneal surface. The anterior surface is being screened. This method will give you, that is corneal topography, will give you the anterior elevation, anterior curvature. Even in the student's level, if you have a Placidus disc and when you shine show the Placidus disc on the patient's cornea, you will have circular rings. Supposing if there is crowding of the rings inferiorly or paracentrally, then you can have a doubt of the curvatural problem. That is, anterior curvature may have a certain problem. So this is about the investigations. Supposing if you are in the tertiary level, the hospital have all the topography, tomography machines, then you can do the tomography as well. Because the advantage of tomography, corneal tomography, gives you anterior elevation of the corneal curvature and posterior curvature and posterior elevation. Normally, anterior curvature will be say 7.8 millimeters and posterior curvature will be 6.5 millimeters. Posterior curvature is steeper than the anterior curvature. And if you take white to white diameter of the cornea, as an average, it will be 11.77 millimeter and vertical will be slightly less than that. Now you can identify this tomograph with the tomography, that corneal elevation, anterior elevation and posterior elevation and corresponding thickness. The pachymetry machine also will tell you that corneal thickness. So central corneal thickness should be seen. Similarly, paracentral areas, how much thickness is there, you have to see that. So in the corneal map, supposing if you take the pentacam, you can see the corneal map with the pachymetry map, that is quad map. Normally everybody will see that. And in that, the map shows the corneal thickness as well as paracentral thickness will be around 530 microns to 550 microns in the center, and in the peripheral region 600 microns to 600 microns. Which regions it differs. In Zambia, I do see most of the patients having the thinner than the is also. So their corneal thickness is minimum 500. So there is a variation, and this is about your investigational procedure. So all the patients, you have to do UV scan also, and sometimes I do A scan biometry to see the and diameter of the eye, because sometimes there will be high myopic with high keratoconus eye. So see both, whether myopia is there and high cylindrical power is there. So you have to see that. And then you have to conclude. So now in the screening procedure, what is the advantage? You will find out the abnormal cylinder, and you will find out that not improve improving glasses. These are all the treatment. Now you will be giving spectacles. You have mentioned that spectacles, and you can give the contact lenses. Suppose if it is been diagnosed as keratoconus, you can give rose K2 lenses, and then if it is an advanced keratoconus, and you can give even scleral lenses. These are all a possibility. But in a primary center, how do you help people? After screening, you can give the this one, spectacles, and you can send patients to the tertiary center like collagen cross-linking. Let me tell you about a collagen cross-linking procedure. The collagen cross-linking procedure is done for people who have mild keratoconus or not for the advanced keratoconus. If you do keratoconus, mild keratoconus eyes, I mean collagen cross-linking in those eyes, the results are very good. And so far we have seen, as you have mentioned about the regression. And after 3 months, you can see definitely the regression. And in terms of that topography changes. For example, if it is help of photosensitizer. The riboflavin 0.1% isotonic solution is used as a photosensitizer. The photopolymerization effect is produced by UVA at the wavelength of 370 nanometer and with the power of 3 microwatts per centimeter square. This is what we are doing. So we are choosing the patients mild to moderate keratoconus. Now, what will be their thickness? All the patients will be for pachymetry and then the topography and then B-scan and total refraction, manifest refraction as well. So now these patients, pachymetry is also important. And you will see the topography, that is also the screening test will be done. You can take Kleismeda or Smollett, Robinowitz screening indices, and then accordingly you will know whether they are borderline keratoconus or definite keratoconus. So these patients, pachymetry is also very important. For collagen cross-linking, the pachymetry value is very important. In my experience in Zambia, what I would tell you is, in Dr. Agarwal's eye hospital, what we normally see in the patients who are undergoing collagen cross-linking, two types of patients. Patients with 400 microns and above, and patients with corneal thickness 400 microns less. So I choose two types of procedure. One is epithelium off, another one is epithelium on. Primarily, how do we prepare the patients? So we prepare the patients with the 0.4% topical anesthesia is instilled. In 10 minutes, you just frequently you apply so that epithelium will be loosened and the patient will be epithelium and 6 to 8 millimeters diameter. This is done. Am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yes, Dr. Gita, you are audible.
Okay, okay, okay. I got a message there. Okay, and then so after scraping the epithelium, then you instill the isotonic riboflavin 0.1% solution. Now that is for 30 minutes. Every 3 minutes once you have to instill continuously for the eyes, and the epithelium and the stroma and everything will be covered with the riboflavin eye drops solution. Now the stroma will absorb the riboflavin. So this riboflavin, which is concentrated in the anterior 300 microns of cornea, is very, very important. So this absorption takes place for 30 minutes to reach the 300 microns up to 300 microns of anterior stromal cornea. Now, after this, you have to apply the UVA 370 nanometer wavelength for about 15 to 30 minutes, depending upon what power you are giving. Like supposing if I take 3 microwatts per centimeter square, then I can give it for 30 minutes continuously. This UV rays will be passed on to the stroma, and the stroma which is absorbed by the stromal layer which has got the riboflavin solution. This is a photosensitizer, absorbs the UV rays. When it is absorbing the UV rays, there will be an absorption, and then polymerization, photopolymerization takes place with the help of this riboflavin. This action completes after 30 minutes, then we remove the patient and we put the BCL and then send the patient. What will happen to this? Up to 3 months, we will be evaluating. There will be an photochemical bonding between the collagen fibers in the stroma, especially in the anterior stroma. Riboflavin does two things. It absorbs the UV rays and helps in the releasing the free radicals of oxygen and enhances the chemical bonding of the collagen fibers. As well as, since it absorbs the UV rays, it does not allow the UV rays go into the deeper structures and damage the endothelium, lens and retina. This is how it is being protected. And after that, now the epithelium heals off in 3 to 4 days. Till then they will be on BCL with antibiotic, lubricant eye drops, and then with the antibiotics with the steroids as well. 4 weeks we will be following them. Every 1 month they can come. 3 months later we can repeat the topography. Supposing if you have then anterior segment OCT, then you can see the demarcation line. From the center cornea, demarcation line will be deeper. When it goes to the periphery, it will be less deeper. So the demarcation line will be seen in the OCT after this collagen cross-linking. And now, what is the advantage of this? Now, this strengthening the collagen fibers, which will stiffen the anterior stroma by coming closer. It is a chemical bonding, and it strengthens the anterior stroma. Usually, anterior stroma is less hydrophilic than the posterior stroma. Posterior stroma is more hydrophilic, and it swells whenever there is an injury to the endothelium and decimet membrane. Now, this after 3 months, when you see the corneal topography and the pachymetry, definitely there will be a small change in the corneal topography. There will be an improved visual acuity with the same glass. What they have not read, definitely they will be able to read. For example, if they are reading 618 partial, they might increase to 612, like that. So distant vision will definitely improve. And so far, luckily, whatever age group we have seen, from 8 years onwards, I have seen the patients here, and mostly from 10 to 20, like 13, 14 to 16, 17, that age group, most of them are coming over here. and we have done the collagen cross-linking, where sometimes even 17, 18, they come with the advanced stages. She has done the classification and have explained advanced stages, they come with the hydrops. So in the slit lamp examination, if there is a break in the Descemet membrane, there will be a fluid collection from the posterior segment, and slowly it will come to the anterior segment, and there will be a thinning of the cornea, as well as the corneal edema have the hydrops, and we have to do the corneal transplantation. That is also done in Dr. Agarwal's Eye Hospital in Zambia. And it sometimes, even two brothers in the same family, we have done the corneal transplantation. So the earlier when you identify, you can definitely prevent the further progression. So she has presented in such a way, she has explained what are all the slit lamp findings in the early stage, in the retinoscopy, and then in the ophthalmoscopy, and then that keratometer reading, how it is useful. Definitely all those things are mentioned by Dr. Abigail very nicely, and I really appreciate. So the purpose of taking this journal is just to how to prevent progression of the keratoconus, and how to identify in the early stage itself, so that it will be very useful. So my tips today is like for the students, Abigail, like students, I think when you see anybody complaining of photophobia, watering, defective vision, definitely you can take a little more interest in doing the K1, K2. What is the steep K1, what is the steep K2? If you have keratometer, manual or this one auto keratometer, it will be fine. If you by yourself, if you do the retinoscopy, you will know the scissor reflex, and then ophthalmoscopy, oil droplet reflex. Definitely you can send the patient for collagen cross-linking, just in case if you happen to find the high drops, they need the corneal transplantation. We'll be able to help the patients, and it is a very good presentation. Congratulations, Abigail.
Thank you, Dr. Gita.
Your mic is off, Dr. Kasongole.
Dr. Kasongole is back. Dr. Kasongole.
Oh, sorry. I was just sharing my apologies. I was coincidentally attending another meeting. COEXA is having a council meeting for the year. We should have been having the meeting in Malawi, but we decided to do a webinar, and tomorrow we have the COEXA AGM, and I like to take this opportunity to encourage all of you to find time to join the meeting, to be tomorrow at 3 p.m. Coming to the presentation, wonderful presentation, Dr. Kunda. Job well done, and Dr. Gita, very elaborate, good learning. Dr. Gita has vast experience in this area. And of course, we had a discussion today. I also got to learn one or two things. The study is pretty enlightening, and indeed it just shows the gaps that we have in Zambia. Because you can imagine how many patients are moving around who have keratoconus and haven't yet had an opportunity to be examined by an ophthalmologist to pick up the condition and provide the appropriate treatment that is required. But many of our people opt to go to the opticians, as Dr. Kunda had highlighted. And this, in the end, results in the missed opportunities. If keratoconus is picked up early, just as this study had shown, it provides an opportunity for patients to undergo cross-linking. Cross-linking, as Dr. Gita had mentioned, which simply goes on to strengthen the collagen bonds that the cornea has, and prevents worsening or thinning of the cornea. If the cornea thins out, then the patient will have no choice but to undergo keratoplasty. But if the condition is picked up early, there's a chance that surgery would be avoided, and a 10 minutes, 20 minutes procedure of cross-linking can be done to try and make the cornea thicker. So when you look at this study, it's comparable to other studies that have been done. The only major thing that I noticed that the average age in this study was 26 years. That pretty excludes patients who would have been elderly, and patients who are elderly have a lot of changes in their corneas. So if that was done, we would have seen that the specificity and sensitivity would have matched other studies that have been done. But in this case, this study tried to focus on screening to try and pick up the signs of keratoconus at an early stage, which also provides its own advantage in that case. So I think it's a good study on its own. And also just to mention that in Zambia, we have 5 centers that are equipped with keratometers. And I think, as Dr. Kunda put on our last slide, this is something that I would encourage us to find time and see how we can go on and do a study. Mungu, Livingstone, Ndola, Kitwe, UTH, Chawama, all these centers have keratometers. I know not everyone may have the tomograms. Only Chawama and Agao have those, but we can make use of this study. It's a good example that you can do all this without the use of the tomography part of the study. And also, I would like to encourage most institutions to also try and equip the centers with a Placido disc. The Placido disc is very basic, good for topography. It will pick up early signs of keratoconus, and it's a good learning tool for the PGs, the people that are currently in training. And it's cheap if you have to compare to the use of these expensive tomography, machines. So I think for me, good study, good job, Dr. Kunda. Thank you. Unless there are any other questions or contributions that can be made.
We still
Dr. Mzula.
Yes, Dr. Osogole, I just want to comment. Some of these presentations have specifically been made for postgraduates, but I think from experience of late, we have been having very less participation. I don't know whether there's intimidation or people are shy. Yeah, this is a forum to ask even things that you feel you're not clear about. Any comments, what we have learned in terms of critiquing the articles with so many things. Do not feel intimidated, just make your contributions.
And also, just to try and add on, I think as the journal clubs go on, it would be good to try and see that we do not just critique the paper and we walk away like that. It would be good for us to try and see how we can adopt what the message that is coming out from the paper to our local scenario, and see how we can do a similar study and have our own data. I think that can try and narrow the gaps in terms of the knowledge base locally. So I think each time that the presentation is being done, at the end, if one of the PGs can try and propose a study topic that one of the new people may try and pick up and essentially do.
There's a question from Judith Chupa. It says, how many cross-linking sessions can a patient undergo in case the first session fails? Maybe this can go to Dr. Gita.
Yeah, Dr. Yula, I have heard people telling about the first time, second time done in South Africa. From there, I have seen certain patients. Maybe it is a moderate, like, that they may be going in for second stage to third stage. In that case, they would have done it. And usually here, what I see is most of the patients from 10 to 17 years. So when I do it, I didn't see much of an non-response to collagen cross-linking. I have heard about people telling me that they have done 2 times in South Africa, but I have no experience of doing the second time. And definitely I have done for the mild and moderate. And for the advanced keratoconus, I have done corneal transplantation. Hello. One more thing I would like to tell you is, there is something called thin cornea and very thin cornea. Say cornea around 400 to 450 with the keratoconus parameters like pachymetry, thin pachymetry. So in that case, you can do the epithelium of collagen cross-linking. Suppose if it is between 350 microns to 400 microns, then you can do collagen cross-linking with contact lens application. That is contact lens assisted collagen cross-linking. It is done by Dr. Susan Jacob from Dr. Agarwal's Eye Hospital from 2014. You can read her journals. It is very good. I am practicing that. And in that case, supposing if a patient has got 350 microns, then you take the contact lens, which is the silicone hydrogel without UV blocker. Take that contact lens and then you soak it in the riboflavin solution. 30 minutes you have to soak it. That contact lens will be of 90 to 120 microns thickness. So as an average, you can say 100 microns. So this 350 microns thin cornea, I will do it with epithelium on. And then you can put the contact lens before you do the UV rays. Now, the understanding is, for example, if it is 450 microns, you are removing 50 microns of epithelium. This 400 microns, supposing if you are applying the UV rays, this will penetrate the cornea, anterior stroma from 250 to 280 microns depth from anterior surface. Now, if it is an epithelium on, this will go into again the same level, right? But it will be less than that, like 210 microns like that, 210 microns to 240 microns like that. Now, when you put the contact lens assisted collagen cross-linking, you are protecting the endothelium and the deeper corneal structures. This is the idea. Sometimes people have long time used hypotonic riboflavin solution to swell up the cornea. It is a kind of distortion, but after Dr. Susan Jacob has introduced the contact lens assisted collagen cross-linking, I am doing that. And 350 microns, I do not take the epithelium, and I don't want any scarring of the cornea. So I do it epithelium on with this 90 microns or 100 microns, 90 to 120 microns contact lens, which is not an UV blocker, and then you can apply and do the same procedure. This is called contact lens assisted collagen cross-linking. So this we are doing. So this is very successful. I would think that Dr. Uvila's question may be that which is not successful, you are doing again. For that, I think I'm attributing to this factor that cornea is less than 400 micron thickness, say 350 microns thickness. So when you swell up the cornea with other hypertonic solution, that intraoperative pachymetry is not raising up to 400 microns, then you will be in a trouble that you won't be able to achieve the effective results. So in that case, they might have done, but we are doing this method, which is very effective and it is very safe, because then the lens and retina also is protected. Endothelium and Descemet's membrane also is protected. So I do both epithelium off, epithelium keratoconus, this one collagen cross-linking, as well as contact lens assisted collagen cross-linking.
Okay, thanks very much for that answer.
I can. Hello.
Yes, doctor.
Good evening. Congratulations for the presentation. Dr. Gita, I would like to hear your comment. I didn't manage to read the paper, but about the inclusion criteria of 51. If I'm not wrong, the progression stops at 30th, and it will not be, we will not get a bias with 51 cutoff of about the inclusion criteria. I don't know. I would like to hear your comment about that. I don't know if you got my questions.
Can you repeat your question? That is 51
yes.
diopter. 51
no. Age. 51,
okay.
51 or 50. I don't.
Okay, I
about
would
the
like
age.
to tell you this. I would like to tell you this. Usually keratoconus will be abortive from the age of 35 years. Very rarely, less than 1% might go for progression. I have done only one case. She was 42 years. I have done the corneal transplantation. She had an advanced keratoconus and hydrops, and I have done it, but it is only 1% or less than 1%. After the age of 35, they say there is no need for collagen cross-linking. Most of my patients fall between like 10 years to 24 years.
Yes, that's why I'm not getting why the cut off in the study was.
Yes, I
50.
also noticed that.
Yeah.
I also noticed that. I also noticed
not bias there. Yeah.
Correct, you are correct. I also thought, and see, Dr. Kasavale told, he was explaining that where at the time of 26 years, already it would have been in advanced stage in their country. That means more neglected cases. So the cases are appearing between the age of 10 to 15. So the earlier would be the better. 26 years means almost they will be in the moderate stage. So I would feel that they have done the study. That is what they have given it. And it is a screening test. I do agree. But in practical, you have to, Dr. Kasavale, he has mentioned that we have to see even before that. So our age group will be in Zambia. My experience is from 10 to 24 years. So it is better. More patients are between the age group of 13 to 17 years, like that.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, everyone. We have come to the close of the meeting. If there are any questions, you can send them to the various groups on our WhatsApp or even email, and specifically to the presenters and also to the moderators. So we'd like to thank the moderators for coming today, and also specifically for the presenter who worked very hard. Actually, she had prepared earlier. We pushed it forward, but she still held on the presentation. Next week, there's a slight change from next week. We are supposed to have an international webinar, a monthly one. If you remember from our calendar, every month we have been having international webinars. So for this month, we are supposed to have it next week on Wednesday, but the presenter requested that we have it on a Sunday because of the busy schedule. So the moderator is coming from Liberia and will be presenting on cerebral vision impairment. He has shared with me a few articles that I'm going to share to the group. Try to see if you can read them. It will make more sense. There's a bit of neurology in it. So the meeting will be on Sunday. We will soon share the flyer with you. And then next week, Wednesday, it will not go empty. We'll be having Dr. Paul from Kitwe, and the moderator will be Dr. Mbon. So if you have noticed, most of the topics, we have, if there's any topic that we are fully exhausted, has been keratoconus. And the reason why is if you look at the top 10 causes or just morbidity or just prevalence, you'll not find keratoconus being reported in most of the centers. Why is that so? Probably because we are not looking for it, and yet it's very common. So this prompted us to kind of bring awareness. So we started with a webinar, if you remember very well, that must have been in June or July. We had one presenter from India, the other one from Kenya, and then this was followed by Dr. Mabel's presentation. Although two things there were being taught, a meta-analysis, there was also a component of keratoconus, and also in this one. So the only part perhaps we have not discussed extensively is the diagnosis. and also management, which Dr. Gita has extensively and labored to explain. So I feel to some extent we have exhausted keratoconus, and I hope and pray that we'll be making diagnosis of this and it will start appearing, because it's really, really common, and yet we are missing it. Yes, so if I'll allow Dr. Kasongweli to make any closing remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Mumbi. I think nothing much to say, but just to try and encourage all the presenters to continue the hard work that they are putting in. And if those that haven't had a chance yet to come up with a presentation, their colleagues are very much available to try and consult with, and we are also available to give in a hand. I think all the centers so far have shown very good effort where the training is being currently conducted. And we're happy to have our colleagues from across the borders consistently being part of the webinars. Thank you so much for that support. Good evening.
Yes, and by the way, before we go, Dr. Kasongweli, I don't think in Chawama has corneal topography. They just have one clinical officer, so I'm not sure they'll be in a position to have.
No. Sorry, Chawama, I was referring to your place.
Yeah,
SDA.
that one is not Chawama. Okay, yeah. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to send the articles, 3 articles. You just try to read through those ones so that as the moderator, as the presenter will be doing the presentation, you'll be oriented. Thank you and good evening.